Father God, we thank you, Lord. Even as we pray for the county commissioners, God, of Henry County, their honesty, God, we pray, God, in the name of Jesus, that you will continue to give us the wisdom that we need in this walk, God, that you will cover us, God, in the name of Jesus. And we pray, God, for those that have authority over us, those that have our first responders, God, and we ask you to be with us, God, as we make decisions concerning the county and the community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
This is a regular meeting of the Henry County Board of County Commissioners being held on Tuesday, March 12, 2019, at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers in Wilson, Florida. In attendance are Chairman Mitchell Wills, Commissioner Darrell Harris, Commissioner Michael Swindle, Commissioner Carson Turner, County Commissioner Vice Chair Emma Byrd, County Administrator Jennifer Davis, County Attorney Mark Lapp, and Clerk Barbara Buck.
Thank you, ma'am. Starting tonight, we have nothing under bids. We go straight to the consent agenda. Do we have anything needs to pull there?
Motion to approve.
Second. Got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just a moment of why did Ms. Byrd have to look towards me during that prayer whenever she was saying asking for honesty of the commission?
It was in your direction.
Hey, you noticed. Everybody noticed that. Right? It hurt my heart. I felt the projection. That's it. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I digress. I received it. I'm anointed. Thank you. I'm not going to be blasphemous. Grandma used to get on to me for joking for a prayer.
It was me.
I think it was you.
Okay.
Okay, continue.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
That's okay. I wasn't even paying mind. I was just listening to the prayer.
Felt it.
was.
Felt it.
Okay. That's going to bring us to the awards and affairs and presentations, and I believe we have one today from Central Behavioral. If you would come up and introduce yourself, please, sir.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Alan Davidson. I am a Senior Program Manager with Central Florida Behavioral Health Network. Just to give you a little history and background, I don't want to be too long. I'd like to get out of here and get back to Tampa sometime before midnight tonight. We are the funder for the unfunded, so the uninsured in the Suncoast region. We are one of 7 managing entities around the state. We are the largest in population, and we are the second largest in land mass. We go from Pasco County down to Collier County, over here to Hendry and Glades, and up through Polk Highlands and Hardy. We are a large swath of land managing a lot of uninsured people around the Suncoast region. So that's the 30,000-foot view. So I'll come down to Hendry and Glades. As you all know, Hendry and Glades unfortunately has gone through 4 providers in the last 4 or 5 years, starting with Hendry and Glades Behavioral, Crossroads, the most recent Elite DNA / CPE. When Elite DNA and CPE came in and got the contract to manage Hendry and Glades, Central Florida told them or encouraged them not to go and hire kind of these C-suite CEO, COO type people and to get a standalone building. There's not enough funds available to properly or appropriately serve the uninsured in Hendry and Glades. We said that they probably needed to be a little more mobile in how they work things, maybe rent a room or an office building, but they did not. They went and got a standalone building and they hired a CEO. And we know they are no longer here because they could not, there's not enough uninsured in Hendry and Glades to fully staff that kind of company. So we move now to Empower. Empower is a telehealth organization. They are the Medicaid provider, contract Medicaid provider for the state of Florida, but we contracted with them for the uninsured here in Hendry and Glades County. They are up and running. They've been up and running for about a month now. They've been meeting with a lot of people. As Commissioner Byrd introduced, they are last month. They are now meeting with the FQHC here in Hendry County, and they are. Last I heard, they were wanting to meet with Wilhelmina, the president of this FQHC, to staff in other locations. We were trying to get spoke sites, or what we might call satellite sites, with the Department of Health and Dr. Pepe. because they have one in LaBelle, one here in Clewiston, and one in Moorhaven. That did not work out. Dr. Pepe tried to go up to the state to get that to work out, and I guess his superior said that was not going to work out.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
why did that not work out? The state of Florida said you can't have an office to put telehealth in for mental health.
I'm not sure. You would have to talk to Dr. Pepe about that. We just took him. He said that wasn't going to work out, and we said, okay, well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ms. Davis, can you formally ask Dr. Pepe and keep all 5 of us in the loop on why that's not allowed? Because we've had the Agency of Healthcare Administration, we've had our federally qualified health center, we've had everybody, tell us things before, and then we work between the cracks on that. So that's not an acceptable answer to me.
Sure.
And I can't imagine that Dr. Pepe doesn't want to see that service
Absolutely.
provided.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And we were hoping that it would work out because a lot of the same people that are going to use our services through Empower are going to come to the DOH in Clewiston, LaBelle, and Moorhaven. So Empower is now working with the FQHCs to see if they can set some spoke sites up here. We hope to have maybe a conversation with United Way in LaBelle. Maybe they can have a spoke site there because, as you know, way better than I do, and I'm just learning here about the people here, is that there's not cell service in a lot of places around here. And then you go into the migrant worker field, the undocumented fields. They might not even have a computer in their home or internet service to their home, so they have to get to a place that has internet service if they're going to have telehealth services. So that's kind of a crucial part of what we're doing here. So we're still working to get some spoke sites, and by spoke sites, we even not talking about 8 to 5 Monday through Friday that they have that entire block of time, that they just have 2 hours on Monday or 3 hours on Tuesday or 4 hours on Wednesday, and just kind of patchwork it together where clients can come in. And
They know the service is provided and it'll be there and they can get after it.
Exactly.
Is there someone there to help them?
Sure. So there will be. Empower was supposed to be here today. Wendy Amos, she is kind of the case manager, boots on the ground person. She's coming down here a few days a week right now as Empower builds their client base up here, and so she's going out meeting with them. She's talking with people. We got the entire client list from CPE of the old clients that they served, and then Empower called each one of those to find out if they wanted to continue services with Empower or if they had moved on to another provider of some sorts. And so a few of them have moved over, and they're working on that. They also are working with the Child Network out of LaBelle as well. We are going to have a meeting, Central Florida, not Empower. Central Florida is going to have a meeting with DCF, the CPIs, Child Protective Investigative Units, down here next week. No, actually, it's this Friday. This Friday, we're going to have a meeting in LaBelle with them as well to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're going to have a meeting with the Child Protective Investigators for Hendry and Glades, or just Hendry?
Hendry and Glades.
Hendry and Glades. How many is that? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm guessing anywhere from 5 to 7, but I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's through DCF that we had the presentation on from the sheriff last week?
Right.
4.
Right.
Okay.
Hendry and Glades?
Well, I specifically asked Henry.
Okay.
4.
Okay.
That'd be the
I called the DCF administrator for our area.
Because this is going to be new for DCF too. You know what I mean? Think about the bigger counties. It's easier for if a child or for CPI needs to refer a parent to go get a urine analysis or something like that. It's easy to be like, okay, you go here and I'll take you here. But now with telehealth services, we have to rethink that and how that works out. It's completely possible. It's completely feasible to work that out. But we just have to work with our CPIs or DCF CPIs to kind of think tank that a little bit and like, okay, so what happens if a case comes in and you were going to treat it this way, used to, and now how are you going to treat it this way now with Empower here? So, and then finally, let me back up. So with Empower, with CPE, let me back up with their medication. So if someone needed medication, they were using K&M, and so we have chosen with Empower to not use K&M for this time. So if a client, an uninsured client, needs medication, we will provide that for free through Empower through their medication services, but that will be drop shipped to them basically. So when they see a psychiatrist online, it will come straight to their door via mail. I don't know if it's FedEx or UPS or USPS. So they don't really even have to leave their home to get their medication anymore. If they choose to go to K&M or to Winn-Dixie or some other pharmacy here in the community, then that will be at their cost, the client's cost. But if they choose to use the services that come through the mail, then that would be at no cost to the client. Finally,
Why is that, Mr. Chair? I mean, we're dealing with an extremely vulnerable population. All we're being told is that they don't have a means, they don't have a way, and so we're saying that if they use the solution that's been laid out for them, then they can get it for free. But yet, if they want to use one of our local pharmacies, they have to pay.
Right.
Why is that box not checked so that it would be able to provide that as well?
that was written into the contract when we signed that with Empower. So yeah.
How many counties does Empower serve?
They just started serving in Highlands County as well 2 weeks ago, but they also are mainly up in the Orlando area, serving I think it's the Kissimmee area, and then like Brevard, I believe. But again, they are the Medicaid provider for the state of Florida. So for the people that have insurance, they serve around the state.
I'm sure the answer is they have a corporate pricing list they use, and they don't g-haw with what K&M or any other rest of them want to pay or charge.
Unless they cut out the third party. But my thing of this, with them mailing this and everything, boxes being snatched, I can see them not getting their medication, and then you still have the same problem.
Sure.
So.
Sure. No, it's
I'd love to know what that volume of what that roster looks like. Are we talking about 150 people, or are we talking about 1,000 people? I don't know. And then what, I don't know what the homelessness rate is, or how much this population is actually moving site to site to site. One of the reasons why ultimately I voted to support having the pharmacy created at the federally qualified health center was because they said this population is extremely vulnerable, so they can go right there and get their meds. But we've not been given a report on that ever to see how successful that's worked. And our Medicaid rate is still what it is. Our Medicaid non-insured rate has not dropped in one bit. As a matter of fact, I'd say we were the highest per capita now, but we're still right there all day long. So.
Sure. Commissioner Byrd, you make a valid point about the medication being snatched off a porch. When CPE sent us the client list, which we then forwarded on to Empower, so they could make some connections and see if clients wanted to continue services, there was roughly around 600 names on that list, but historically, I don't have a peer-reviewed journal here to tell you, give you complete data. But having served in the field and being a licensed counselor, most times people come in 2 times. So that of that 600 names, it could have been, and I'm not discounting someone that comes in once versus someone that comes in 10 times. But we don't know out of that 600 names how many of those just came in once, and because they were having some anxiety or depression, and they left and they never came back again, never even got any medication, versus someone that maybe what we might call a more severe persistent mental illness that was there 10 times, 20 times, 50 times a year and was getting that. So we don't really know what part of that 600 was getting medication.
And Mr. Chair, 2 other things. One question for you. That 600 names, that's Hendry and Glades?
Yes. Yep. One
thing, too, to remember, you all, is that as we looked at our Medicaid population, we were dumbfounded at how many of them had a 33440 zip code, but they were not residents of Hendry County, if that makes sense to you. It was an exorbitant amount of people that we were paying for. And so, once again, my fear is that we're laying out a service. We're underwriting that service. Clearly, this is one that the state of Florida is mostly underwriting, but yet our constituents aren't the ones that are being served in it. So,
where's the zip code go to?
That's a conundrum of mass proportions to understand how that whole problem was divulged. And I remember having a great meeting with Mr. Clark with Ms. Butler's office, and us really digging into that and looking at the overwhelming percentage of our population that was in the nursing homes and the exorbitant amount of percentage of that bill that was associated with that population in itself. Knowing that, I think a third of the nation's debt as it relates to medical services is with that geriatric population. So
we get a lot from Lee County.
A huge amount were from Lehigh.
Lehigh.
Yes, sir.
And Glade Henry.
Yes, sir. And then we had a huge amount that were our Medicaid population that were Belglade South Bay Pahokee residents that were getting Medicaid
When they
services.
come over from Lehigh, we pay for it.
That's correct.
And I think it's around the board because when we spoke to Palm Beach County, they have, it's like, we're going to help you get what you need because if not, it rolls over into Palm Beach County. So, and I believe it's just around the board.
And we also had a large Broward population. So anyway.
Okay.
So the greatest concern coming out of the meeting Friday that we were in, it was the tele meeting.
Sure.
And that's a major concern for everyone at the table there Friday. And the question I have there is, what's it going to take to get personal help here rather than just sitting in front of a computer? I mean, I get it. Everywhere else is all these funding and all that good stuff. And you say Glades and Henry's not. Why? And what's it going to take to get our constituents the same service that everyone else is getting?
Sure. No, and it's a valid concern, Commissioner Wills. So I guess I would separate that into two. So for the insured clients, pick up the phone and call their insurance company. And on the back, we spoke with Ms. Davis 2 weeks ago, I believe. Now that I believe in this field, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so as you guys, as commissioners are calling, as the constituents are calling the back of their car and saying, ACA, why don't we have more providers down here in Hendry and Glades County? We need providers down here in Hendry and Glades County to serve us. And that's one thing. That's for the insured. The uninsured right now empowers where we're at. However, I will say, so CPE is still in existence. They took over what we call the mobile response team contract for 5 counties down here. So Charlotte, Lee, Collier, and then Hendry and Glades. And what they are doing is serving for crisis only. So for a short moment in time when someone is looking to hurt themselves or hurt someone else, then they would get called out. That's their contract. And then we also have what we call, and that's not telehealth, that's in person. Then we also have what we call the CAT team. It's a community assertive team. If you're familiar with the FACT team, which is people kind of coming out of the state hospital, this is kind of the children's version of that. So they're not coming out of the state hospital, but they have more severe mental health and behavioral health issues. They can serve up to 100 kids at a time, ranging from 11 years old up to 21 years old. They are coming out of Centerstone up in Manatee County, but they serve in Hendry and Glades County. And then finally, we were trying to work, going back to what you were saying, Commissioner Turner, we were trying to work with Dr. Pepe on working through the DOH to fund Scott Bass over the superintendent over in Glades County. The funding through DOH did not work out. Again, just said it didn't work out. So we're now working straight with Scott Bass over there to figure out how to work out the funding. As my boss, Marsha Monroe, our chief clinical officer, says a lot of times, is that we say, like, we try to invite people in, but then when we get people in, the IT issues and the data reporting issues is pretty cumbersome for small organizations, where you almost have to hire either a part-time FTE or a full FTE to do the data stuff, which the state requires us to have. So we're trying to make that as non-encumbrant as possible for Scott over there, Superintendent Bass over there in Glades County. So we're still working through that. We hope to have that. We've talked to Superintendent Bass about this. We hope to have that live maybe by the summer. To have money flowing through there that they can serve their children in Glades County. So that's kind of the patchwork, and I get the telehealth concerns.
Well, part of that's mobile. The gentleman's point blank said they called for the mobile unit. Mobile unit said bring them to Lee County. If you're mobile, that means you can come to me.
No.
I shouldn't have to load them up in the car and physically bring. If you are mobile,
Right.
that means you can come to the person that needs help.
Sure.
And they were told, bring them to Lee County.
Mr. Chair,
So,
like 3 questions off of what you're asking.
yes.
So, and on your comments with regards to Glades County school system, so who services Hendry County school system?
Right now it would be the CAT team. The CAT team is going to serve.
Out of Manatee County.
No, but they come down here. They're embedded here. Their supervisor drives 3 times a week from Manatee County down here, but their main staff is embedded down here in Hendry and Glades.
And so, if you could walk me through how many counselors we're talking about, and these are actual boots on the ground,
Yes, sir.
walking through the Hendry County school system.
Sure. So I believe they have 5 staff total on the CAT team.
That's funded through Central Florida Behavioral Health Network.
100% funded.
And so let's just say you have 5 for discussion's
Sure.
sake.
Okay.
You do not have that same representation in Glades County school systems?
So the CAT team services Hendry and Glades.
Okay. So there's 5 in Hendry and Glades school systems.
That serves both. Five total for both counties.
Okay. And what are you trying to do differently for Scott Bass
So Scott was
in reference to this?
So Scott was wanting specific funding for his schools in Glades County. So again, we tried to work with DOH. It didn't work out. So now we're working straight with Scott to put some money in his school system to fund that.
So Superintendent Bass wants money in his school system via the Department of Health to fund more than the 5.
Okay,
he
so-
feels that he needs a greater number.
So, just a little clarification. So, Superintendent Bass wanted money flowing from the state, from DCF, through Central Florida, and it was easier to go through DOH to go to the superintendent. But since the DOH part didn't work out, we're just going to go straight to the superintendent to fund that.
And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you feel like it's potentially some asinine process associated with data marking or IT and how they're actually going to track that process and the volume of students and or people that are receiving services that is preventing DOH from engaging that process?
No, I don't think that's the reason. I think, I can't speak for Dr. Pepe, but that's not the reason. The data part is not
That's
the
the
reason.
state. It's not Dr. Pepe. It's the state telling Dr. Pepe, or is it Dr. Pepe telling Superintendent Bass?
I can't speak to that.
Ms. Davis,
That's something we can get from Dr.
another
I
request.
can't speak to that.
Because I don't want there to be, to me, I don't look at this as this is just a Board of County Commissioners issue, and I know y'all don't either.
Right.
This is a net of protection.
Sure.
We're one episodic event away from, and it happened in Sebring,
Right.
right up
Right.
Highway 27.
Right, exactly.
And it happened down at Parkland,
Sure. Yep.
And so, it's all
Right.
people on deck on this one.
Sure.
And so, to my chair's concerns about just having a computer monitor or whatever that may be that people have to go and vent to, that is a concern for me. To now hear that there's 5 counselors for Hendry and Glades County schools, that's a little bit more unnerving than just 5 for Hendry. And then let me ask my final series of questions as it relates to this. Does Hardee or DeSoto County have just telemedicine?
So that's a good question. So we have what we call 5 rural counties, might more colloquially call them stepchildren. Okay, so we have Hendry and Glades, who are rural. We have Highlands, Hardee, who are very rural, and we have DeSoto, who's very rural. DeSoto is being served by Centerstone. So Centerstone actually puts a therapist or mental health workers out in DeSoto County. For Hardee and Highlands County, that's being served by Peace River Center and Tri-County. Central Florida decided to partner with Empower to put telehealth services in Highlands County to kind of embolden those services there. So to answer your question, they are being served by the providers, but for those providers to even get to those counties, it's a little difficult. For like the crisis support services or crisis emergency services that we said CPE is doing down here, Peace River is doing that for Polk Highlands and Hardee. So they're now having to put people down in staff them in Highlands County so they can respond to any crisis that comes up. Centerstone, which serves DeSoto County, they're having to put people in DeSoto County so they can reach those crisis services as soon as possible.
So the answer is, we're Glades and Hendry County, the only 2 that does not have that.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
We don't know what Okeechobee's status is. And they're not in Central Florida Behavioral Health Networks.
No, I get it. But
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so I just think, Ms. Davis, this would be one that, in you talking with your colleagues throughout the state, it would be interesting to see what some people are doing to broaden that scope of services, and then just looking at it from a demographic perspective and hearing that Hardee and DeSoto have it and we don't. And then knowing some of the different things, that DMH does that Henry Regional doesn't. It's just, I don't know, just trying to tweak that system, knowing some of the things that Rowlerson does that we don't. I would love for us to try to find some best management practices, if you will, and see if something can't be implemented.
Because we're the same size.
Identical almost from DeSoto
So
and Hardee.
there's got to be something else there.
And in reality, Commissioner Harris and Chair, they're actually poorer from a GDP perspective, and they have less people making as much money on a median household income. So, we should be able to underwrite something there. So.
And we were talking back at the network that because 3 providers have failed down here, not survived, and they had brick and mortar buildings down here, and so now we're looking at a different mental health service down here providing. So what does it look like for rural contracting? I think even our contracting process might have to look a little different to make it succeed down here. Do we raise our rates? Because we have rates for everybody, and they're all equal. They're all equal across the board, and it works really well when you have a large population county like Hillsborough County or Pinellas County or Orlando and Orange County or down in Miami, but it doesn't work so well when you have a very rural county and they're not serving as many people. So what does our rural contracting look like? And if you got someone like Gainesville, which has Meridian Behavioral Health, they're in the same spot. They got Levy County, Dixie County, they're in the same boat in these very rural counties. And how do they serve those? And Meridian being massive, they're a huge behavioral health network. They can have those personnel to go out to those counties, but we don't have a large mental health provider down here like Meridian. And then up in the Panhandle, you also have they're a little different too. Mike Watkins up there, CEO of the Big Bend Behavioral Health up there. They're the CBC and the managing entity, so they're 2. But for their crisis support services, I believe, and please don't quote me on this, I'm not sure, but I believe they contract with their law enforcement officers directly to provide crisis support services, something that CPE is doing down here now. So everyone around the state is doing it just a little bit different, just to try to make it work for rural counties. And it's tough because the funding isn't there to fully fund it.
I don't remember what the breakdown is as it relates to what you get totality from the state and how it goes from Hillsborough south.
Sure.
But I remember looking at DeSoto and Hardy and I mean, instantly recognizing that they got a fair amount of a larger chunk than what we got. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's an easy one, especially when you have referenced bricks and mortars and a couple times as being a hindrance. But that was a wash.
Sure.
There was no overhead for that entity.
Right. Last 2 providers we've provided the space at no charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not like they had a nut to crack for covering their mortgage or anything. Right. And then I think we just go back to the previous, the provider that was the 4th one back or 3rd one back. I mean, they were there for probably 25 years.
Yeah.
Conservatively.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I don't know. We've got to
clarify. The last one they paid 50%. The one before that there was no charge.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, well, we just got to figure out a way to get.
Sure.
We got to figure out a way to get that gap bridged because that's a major problem here. It's not just Henry and Glades. There's other places as well. So whatever we got to do to find that out, we need to figure out what we got to do to fix it because I don't think a computer screen is going to fix it.
Sure. Now,
if a computer screen would fix it, we wouldn't have the problems we have now because everybody's sitting in front of them 24/7.
Correct.
So we need the person, a body there for people to talk to.
Okay. And I was at the Henry County Safety meeting on last Friday.
I'm talking about I was with you. Yeah.
Right. And then Commissioner Swindle was talking to me earlier about this. And so if an event were to happen here in Henry and or Glades County, because we just don't have the mental health professionals here that you would find in a larger county, we're going to have to probably draw on other counties, and we can make those calls to draw on other counties, other mental health providers in Lee County, like Salis, or in Collier, like David Lawrence Center, or even up to Charlotte, like Charlotte Behavioral, to draw some providers in if there is a crisis emergency here to the extent of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas or.
Well,
I'd like to try to find some way to keep that and prevent that from happening.
That's the thing
Exactly.
I don't think anybody here.
Rather not wait till
We don't have that concern of people showing up when the house is on fire. It's a
Sure.
question of what can we do to make sure it doesn't ever get lit.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And so you're on the agenda for the next board meeting as well. So
Okay.
in 2 weeks, and so maybe
Okay. So
when you.
Marcia and I, since we will not be here, we'll be at a national conference in Tennessee. However, Empower will be here at the next meeting. So I will, and I've made sure that they will be here. I said that it's utmost importance that they're here for the next meeting, especially since we will not be in attendance. But you can count on me being here for the next couple of months as services continue to roll out. I do send out an email weekly right now talking about services. If any of you guys are not receiving that, let me know. I'll get you on the email list. If you know of someone that is not on, that wants to be on it, please let me know. I'll get you on that. Please forward it out. And as we continue to, as Dr. Pepe said, kind of build that patchwork of mental health providers here in the area, so we all know who's doing what and who can refer to what, and how can people get services down here.
Okay, any more questions, comments? Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Ms.
sir.
Davis, if we could, we reach out to the smaller counties that Commissioner Turner was talking about. Let's see what kind of model they have in place, see what it would take to actually implement something like that here.
So what about Okeechobee?
I'd love to know. I don't know. I just don't know.
They're right, our
Also, I'm
size.
concerned about the medication that's coming in through the mail. Even if it still came through the mail, if it went straight to the post office, so it could be accountable. So if you can check on that also.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have something, Mr. Harris?
Well, some of those people don't have post office. She's talking about sending it to the post office. Some of them don't even have the post office.
We got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
We're working on that. I can get Mr. Parker to get a road, Lord Jesus.
He said, Lord Jesus.
All right, on the public hearings, we had nothing tonight. Nothing under the action of correspondence under FYI. You guys see that from Mr. Parker and your budgets there. Do you have any questions on any of that, or no?
None.
That-
Okay, we're going to move into staff reports. Ms. Davis?
Yes, the first item, Mark, do you?
That's the second one I'll talk about.
Okay, the first item is to approve a GIS contract for
The
through
one
the
presented by
E911
Mr.
group.
Lemko.
Yes.
I'll make
So-
a motion to approve the procurement of GIS services and go into a contract with Acamica LLC, amount of $178,816.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Byrd. Any further discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, just, I'm sure you all read this is 100% reimbursable, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Just a couple clarifications on the next item, the replacement of the Big Cypress 911 public safety
Okay.
answering point. You can see what's written there. What I would add is just to clarify that the business is GKR Systems, Inc. That's their proper name. You'd be approving them, the procurement of their services because they're a single source. That's not in the staff report here. There was an attempt to do a competitive procurement, but they didn't get, EM was unable to get bids from anybody else other than this provider. So we would be asking you to approve them as a single source, which is something under our procurement ordinance you need to do when we only go with one entity, like this, and we didn't get prices from anybody else. So,
Mr. Chair, is there a difference between a single source and a sole source?
yeah.
Okay.
A single source is the only one that's practically available to provide the service. So there could be providers that do this kind of thing, like CenturyLink does, and there's another company that he sought out. I can't remember their name. They do this kind of work, but they chose not to price it for us. A sole source is one where you're legally obligated and constricted to only use that provider.
So you don't have a choice.
Right.
But
Either
this
way,
is a
you
single-
functionally don't have a choice, but just to clarify, this is single source, not sole source. So that's one clarification. The other thing is, the contract is still in the works, and so you'd be authorizing the chairman to execute a contract that I will still need to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Chair, second with discussion.
Go ahead.
How do we, because obviously we're putting ourselves out to be liable, how do we have confidence that this is the only entity able to provide that technology, knowing, you just alluded to the fact that CenturyLink can do it, so how are we able to hang our hat on the single source motto? How do we know that the request wasn't made 72 hours ago and CenturyLink saying, I'd be all about it, but I need 2 weeks to give you the number?
Yeah, I can just say, first of all, Richard Lemko is the one who handled this, but I have an email that he forwarded to me from where he sent it to Ford Fry? What's the first name? What's the last name? Ford's the first name. Ford Fry, who's with CenturyLink, and said, will you please price this? And he said, no, we won't, because because we already are using Venture Technologies to be our maintenance provider for this equipment, and from what I understand in the industry, if they're the maintenance provider, they kind of like the other ones back off and say, let them have all of the work for that county. That's kind of
Again, that's where they make their money.
yeah. And then he also sought a quote from this is the other one, West Safety Services, and they gave a response and no dollars. They just said, we do not have the maintenance technician in your area that could be meet a mutually acceptable SLA response time for supporting the platform.
Yeah,
So they
nobody
no
wants
bid.
to.
No, the response time. You said we can't do it in the time that you're asking us. We can't respond in the time.
Well, no, I'm saying no, the response time to fix a problem, not a response time to give a price.
Because our location.
Comcast don't do that?
I don't know.
I hope not.
It's a very specific E911 type of thing that a lot of people do not have expertise in.
So at the end of the day, the public safety answering point that is at BC will still be in existence. There will be a new contract, and there will be this provider that will be engaging that process.
Right, and new equipment. The big ticket here is it's brand new equipment.
Okay. All right.
How long is their contract?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think it's 5 years. I think let me confirm that here. Bear with me a second.
God forbid we have a hurricane.
It comes with the software and the updates and maintenance. Yeah, it's a 5-year service period.
Learn something every day. in
Got
this job.
a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Turner. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We got a resolution we need to put in. It's a good time now, I guess, as any.
Yeah, the last item is a resolution in regards to Lake Okeechobee for your consideration. This is a resolution that Palm Beach County, something very similar that they approved last week. Also, Okeechobee County is planning to approve something very similar later this week. And so what we did is we took a lot of the language. It's very similar, but then we incorporated some very specific language regarding agriculture and Lake Okeechobee at the end of the resolution for you to consider to approve tonight.
Is there any questions on this? Or
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the resolution as provided.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Harris. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bain, we got one gentleman would like to come up and speak tonight. Mr. Bain, come on up. If you would come up and introduce yourself, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Jennifer, do you have any idea when the meeting associated with this may occur? Is it April? No.
I think it'll be late April, early May.
Okay.
We should know something later this week.
Okay.
Hello, I'm a resident of Mid-State Loop, and Nick Bain. I've had Mr. Turner out there at least one time, and the concern is the zoning of the properties. It's sort of lighthearted. We have 5 trucking companies in our neighborhood now, plus an auto body repair facility in our neighborhood now. Just want to know what's being done to stop this from going forward. It's tearing up our roadways. I have a culvert in my front yard that is collapsed. Completely crushed. I've called the engineering department 3 times in the last 6 months. No phone call back. No word that anybody's even been out there. Where I live at, there's 4 yards that drain into ours. So when we have 3 to 4 inches of rain in any given day, I have Lake Okeechobee in the front yard that lasts all night long.
And will not go to the drainage.
Will not go to the drainage ditch.
Less than 50 yards away.
Yes. Will not go there. So I'm sort of worried about what these semis are doing. The road's falling apart. They come out there and patch it. They patch the potholes, but they're not fixing the edges where it's completely gone. The neighbor that lives to the right of me, I live at 738. Most of his road that goes underneath his tree is gone. I mean, it's 4 feet from the edge of his yard to where it's just asphalt and just marl now. So I need to know, what we're doing. I know, like I said, Carson's been out there. We have a house that was livable at one point, probably 2 years ago, that is now a salvage yard.
Irma
it's-
essentially got it.
Yes, Irma blew the front window out and then turned around and blew the back window out. So it just went right through there, and it's still standing for the most part, but it's mostly a salvage yard.
I don't think there's power to that.
No, because they bought the one across the street, and then they ran an extension cord across the street to give it power whenever he needs to work on his vehicles. So one of the, forgive me, I don't have the addresses, but you drive through there, you'll see one of them has 2 dump trucks in the yard. You'll see they have their dump trucks up in the air, no safety stand underneath the cylinder, kids running around, jumping on it, climbing all over it. They have no regard for their own children. So why would they have any regard for anybody else in the neighborhood? So I know Mr. Turner's talked about it several times from what other people I've talked to. So it's just kind of, demoralizing to see our neighborhood go to crap when it can be fixed.
Is it all dump trucks?
No, there's 2 dump trucks, there's 2 side trucks, and a box truck that comes through there all the time. They're in there, they work on their vehicles, which I don't mind people making a living. Don't get me wrong, but park their trucks somewhere else. We have another neighbor, I think they live at 735. They have a farm bus that they park there. They don't live there, but they have a family member that lives there, so they park their farm bus in their yard.
Because they can.
Because they can. And nobody's going to say anything to them that they cannot.
Ever.
So they do have a body shop?
Yeah. He's got a paint booth in his backyard.
But are they, do they have license?
No, they do not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Nor the other businesses. You're saying there are other
I
trucking
call them businesses. They're illegitimate businesses. We had
this is a residential, right? It's all there's no.
It's all residential.
This state loop's all 100%.
Right. We had a local pharmaceutical salesman to the next of us, but he's gone now. He's been evicted. But what I perceive to be a salesman, anyway. But he's been evicted, so that part's gone. But we talk about the pollution, the body shop. I work at U.S. Sugar. We are not allowed to paint on site because of the DEP regulations. We can have contractors do it, but they're responsible for their waste. Right. This guy's painting cars. He's doing whatever back there. What's he doing with his waste? I know exactly what he's doing. I can't prove it, but it's going in the retention area right behind the house, which is in the neighborhood where Kim Barano lives.
It's over now. I can tell you that.
So, I'm glad she's here. But it gets old after a while. You go outside, you hear the compressors running, you hear them changing tires. They're changing oil on the vehicles. I know they're not taking. Oh, sorry. I know they're not taking it up to Advanced Auto Parts to get rid of that oil. They're just dumping it in the yard. So I just want to know what else can be done.
Well, she's here tonight.
Hold on, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Mr. Bain, how many months has it been since I talked to you?
September. And since then, they remodeled one house.
They did.
And that's where 2 trucks are now, one side truck and a box truck. I haven't seen the box trailer there in a couple of weeks, but it's out of there. Yeah. It's still there. The truck is there, but the box is gone.
That's 6 months.
So
he has 6 months on any of these?
6 months.
But I knew you were smiling a while ago, so what's?
Yeah, on 7, Wanda Reyna, Hendry County Code Enforcement. On one of them, the 766, the building official went out there and deemed the structure unsafe. Prior to that, last year, and that was around September, October, I had 2 code cases on 765 and 766, which is the same owner.
He's making so much money illegitimately that he actually bought his neighbor's places. Mm-hmm. He doesn't even worry about having power on, and he's running this everything. But did you just hear? Went out there in September and opened up 2 cases.
Correct.
This is the stuff that makes my blood boil. In September, code enforcement goes out there. They open up 2 cases. Are those cases still open?
One of them is in compliance, and he paid the citation. The other one, he came to the office, and he stated that he was trying to apply for unmet needs, the coalition. So he wanted to see if he could repair it. The building official did tell him it's possible to get repaired. He went out there actually this week after I got the email from staff, and he deemed it unsafe. So it's not repairable.
A D5 Dozier, LGP with the wide tracks is what needs to repair that place. But guys, this happens all the time. And we're talking about 6 months. Ms. Bird, with all due respect, I can't have more love in my heart for you. But I was so irate whenever you said, We asked staff to look into this in April. We need to give them the ability to do that. Do you remember making that statement? And I said, yes, ma'am, you're right. I knew I was fixing to get my tail handed to me. I believe it was a 4-1 vote that night. Here we are 6 months later, guys. Mr. Bain hasn't talked to me since September. How in the world? And listen, vote me out of office. It's irrelevant. It's not about me being in the District 5 Commission seat. That's irrelevant. It's about what's right versus what's wrong for people that are paying taxes in this county. Ms. Barano's sitting right there. Her mother, how many times do we have to have her come here? Because this isn't hard. This isn't rocket science. I'm gonna stop talking right now because I'm too emotional and I'm too angry. Angry is the word that I have.
And I understand that. And
so clearly,
no, I do
you don't
understand
the anger and the passion that I have for my community in this county. And I could give two flips about whether it's District 5, District 1, or anything in between. It's about the entire county and the fact that I don't understand how we can take this long to fix something. I don't understand it. And we have the tools. We just have to implement them. You take the hammer out of the shelf and you hit it sometimes with things. Sometimes you use a screwdriver. Sometimes you use a D6 dozer. You know, well, Mr. Bain came and met with me privately and he said, my culvert's falling. This is happening. This is happening in this corner. Why can't y'all do something? Why can't y'all do something? I haven't talked. It's amazing that he came here tonight. God does answer prayers, you know, so.
Well, I would like to address and move on forward in reference to the concerns about the chemicals. I can get together with, because we were planning to sweep on Thursday, me and the other officers plus my trainee, and we can get the health department out there, and we can also get DEP out there to test the soil, to test the water in the area, anything that's spillage or that's coming from the vehicles. Code enforcement will handle the commercial vehicles. They are allowed to have one in that area. They can't have more than one. That's something we will address.
Wait, can you clarify that?
So
if I own a lot in Mid-State Loop, I can have one commercial vehicle on my lot.
In Hendry County, in its entirety, you can have one commercial vehicle.
In the driveway.
In your driveway.
Okay.
Correct.
So they may be in compliance with the trucks and the dump trucks.
Absolutely not.
Well,
One.
Yeah, they're allowed to have one, but what happens is, for example, for this particular property, he'll come into compliance by removing the vehicles. Then on the weekend at night, it comes back. But because on this particular property, he's already signed and admitted his guilt, it's a lot easier to take him back, whether he moves the vehicle or not, because it's becoming a problem and he keeps bringing it back. Mm-hmm. We can still bring him before the judge, and the judge can go ahead and tell him that this has to, this can't continue. So we'll have more bite that way of him trying to bring back vehicles, because he'll come into compliance. We have to close the case.
Is it a single person that's causing basically the?
I know the one on the corner. The other ones, the other addresses I wrote down. Yeah.
They might be family members.
Okay.
One part that was fixed, I'll tell you this, is the one guy who, forgive me, I should have had the addresses, but he was parking his semi with the sod truck right in front of the mailboxes. So you couldn't pull up there if it's raining to get to your mailbox. You had to drive around or get out and walk out. That's been fixed. He parks in his yard now with the semi sticking out halfway to the road.
But he destroyed
that
all
part's
of
been. But he's destroyed that whole area right there. But I just wanted to bring. I know Carson's been out there. We've talked a few times, but just if it's going to happen there, it's going to happen anywhere.
And it is happening everywhere.
Yeah. So it's a little lighthearted, some of the things, but all the guy's going to do is, like you said, they're allowed to park one. So if the guy, he owns the one across the street, if he has one there and one there, he's still in compliance.
Right.
But he's still got two vehicles in there. I believe they're I don't know if they're all family members, but I think the one that was just remodeled at 746, they are family members. So I don't know what closed, but there's two different lots.
Were y'all aware of the painting before tonight?
No.
That was the first y'all heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
When are you going to do your sweep? What?
Thursday.
No, time of day, Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Maybe you shouldn't say it on the.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry. Thursday is the 14th. Yes, the 14th. We'll go out first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And we spend the day there.
Let me ask this question. Is that the wrong time to go out?
That's where I was going with.
Because they're going to bring the trucks in and
they're gone by 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
We can do a later evening. We can do a later evening.
Mr. Bain?
Yeah.
By 6 or 7, they're gone. You need to go.
746 starts up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Right.
For an hour.
In my opinion, you're going to have to go at 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Just leave for here.
Either in the evening or even.
It takes 8 minutes to get there.
We're, yeah. And
Body shop's all day? So we
You'll
should
see-
be able to catch that one any time during the
You'll
day.
see
Yes.
the unlicensed car sit down in his front yard. There's
Right.
a green Jeep. He parks it at the neighbor's, because it's vacant now, so he lets him park it there, but
Right.
you'll see it there.
If I may, I'll suggest that we go Thursday and we go either this Saturday or the following Saturday so that we get there on a weekend, because we know that there's also activity that you'll never catch during the week. In addition to that, this is one of the things that we've been struggling with for a really long time, and that has to do with commercial vehicles on residential parcels. And each time that we've tried to address that or had discussions with community members about limiting that ability to park their work vehicles, the complaint is you're going to ruin my livelihood if I can't park it there because they don't have any other place to park it. And it's very legitimate. We can get creative, and which would then still limit some folks with having it. For example, just using that example of the tractor trailer that is hanging out into the road or right at the road. Well, so we have to limit the size per size of parcel, because we have a lot of platted lots that are either a third of an acre, half an acre, or a full acre, or 2 acres. And we can look at a sliding scale with that so that it literally can fit, it sits back. We can make recommendations that it has to be in the backyard, which is going to be difficult for most people because they usually put their homes in the furthest back of their parcel.
Do you feel like that has outlived its usefulness?
What's that? Them being able to
Have a
park?
commercial vehicle in the yard, period? Because the way you just described that, I don't see that being anything short of monumentous task for everyone.
I agree with you, but again, I mean, if we were to revise our code to say that residential parcels, and that is RR, we're talking about Pioneer, we're talking about Port LaBelle, we're talking about in the mid-state area or the east area, Harlem, Montura, Case and Evans, on and on and on. Every place that you look at is going to, if we said that you cannot have your commercial vehicle at your home, it would be a disaster for our economy. I seriously think that, because
No one's proposing that.
So, and I understand, but that's why I'm saying the extreme here is that if we were to do across the board edict here with our code, the impact would be, far reaching.
Mr. Chair, no one's proposing
We're talking
no
about-
commercial vehicles on
About
lot.
2 vehicles.
Well, but we also need to, what I'm getting at is there are situations that was just brought up that there's a vehicle that's too big for the lot, for the parcel. It doesn't fit on there.
Find another place to park it.
And so.
But do you see, Mr. Chair, do you see how the conversation gets hijacked? We're talking about an extreme case that in September code enforcement went out and opened up. This man on his own accord has come here tonight. He has said, I can't take it anymore. They're running multiple commercial operations in a corner, and that somehow morphs into we need to make sure we don't want to not be able to park commercial vehicles. What the public is hearing is the county is considering not allowing you to park a commercial vehicle in their lot. Do any of y'all disagree with that? That's not what any of us are even contemplating.
Well, and that's not what I was saying, that's what we should do. I'm saying that would be.
I'm not saying that's what you're saying we should do. What I'm saying is that I don't understand how we get to even having that discussion when the point that Mr. Bain is making and what drove him to come up here tonight is September. September, he took his commissioner, said, please come and meet with me. Nothing is happening. I've talked to everyone and nothing is happening. Here we are now, September's right around the corner. And we're not, in my opinion, we're failing our constituency base. And so I said 12 minutes ago I wasn't going to say anything. I can't allow another conversation to get hijacked. So.
Well, I apologize if you feel like I hijacked it, and I didn't. I just was bringing up some
and I just want a clarification on the whole. I want a clarification on where the correct thought process needed to go. Quite frankly, that's what I was thinking. If we need to look at certain areas and they don't need to park there and certain semis don't need to be there, because it's going to turn into a rat race, just like it is now. Well, he's only got one. No, he'll move it. It'll be two. Well, that's not helping Mr. Bain in his situation. Having certain areas where you can't park a semi will help his situation.
But what about his F-350? That he is a service man for United States Sugar Corporation, Ridgeville & Son, and Quality Electric.
Well, I don't think that's the problem. I think that's
No, it's no, that's a commercial vehicle.
That's a
commercial vehicle.
Well,
When I go to Jacksonville, Florida, and I have to rent an apartment in an apartment complex, they make me sign an agreement that says none of my vehicles will have logos on the side of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can park a vehicle that has a utility body, but it can't have a logo on it. That's theirs. You know, Hendry County, you know, I look at things from a different lens, and I say, okay, that would never fly here, because I can't allow for Joey Miller or any of the principals at Wedgeworth to know that I'm attacking their livelihood and their employees' livelihoods. Or
I'm thinking more semis, though.
Okay,
not
but that's-
necessarily a work.
Can we define it?
Yeah, it's more of
in the
a
code?
classification. It's
Well, hold on,
it's not a commercial, just a commercial vehicle. It's a classification.
It says semis.
So, in the situation this gentleman was talking about, it's not just in his area. I mean,
But-
if you
No,
realize,
it's not.
if you remember a year ago, we
Go
were
to
in Case and
Sherwood,
Evans
it's right
Road
there.
having the same conversation.
Yep.
Actually, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
my first year in office. We about got ambushed there.
It's a
So
difference.
it's a lot of ongoing problems. And it has been. You're correct. I can
Go
sit here and
tell
say the same
Julius
thing.
Franklin. I want somebody to go tell Julius Franklin he can't park his semi in his yard.
Well, that's what we talked
Been
about
doing
that.
it. I'm 42. His daddy did it before he started doing it, and
his
that's
brother
Julius's
does it.
right to park one vehicle. He's done it forever. So I'm not trying to get rid of that situation,
Right.
but Julius and his entire neighborhood, they're cool with it. What we're talking about is the asinine situation where the guy on the corner of Sherwood across from the mailboxes has, I guarantee you go out there, I haven't been there in probably 2 weeks, but drive past the RV park, I guarantee you there's 3 tractor trailers and probably 2 other trailers that are not hooked up, and there's work being conducted, and the curb is gone, and the grass is all dead right there, and it's a sand pit because they're coming in and out. That's Sherwood, backside of Twin Lakes.
And I
now
don't
go to
want-
Mid-State Loop.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Please don't.
So please help me understand.
Yes.
Your anger is more along the lines that it's been going on, and code enforcement hasn't done anything to correct the situation. Does that boil it down?
But 100%.
Okay. Okay.
But yet, we get a report that says we've closed out X number of cases. We're moving the ball down the field. Commissioner, just relax. Don't change the method up. To me, I don't know why we don't have a mechanism that says, hey, jackass, you're parking illegally today. You've been cited. The judge has said, we agree, you've all been cited and you're incorrect. If you do it again, code enforcement will have the ability to come out, put a tag out there and say, you're out of compliance. The tab is running. Deal with it. If you either deal with it and then we have bigger teeth to deal with it, or you don't, and we turn a blind eye like what we're doing right now.
I certainly don't want to figure out where the disconnect is. I see what you're saying. I see what she's saying. I see what our staff is saying and doing. But where is the disconnect? Do we not have enough humans to make that happen? Is that the main point? Do we not have the time of the day? Why can we not do, well, with the current system, why can we not do what Commissioner Turner's asking to make happen?
The current system does work, and because we have another body.
Wanda.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
While you saying
I'm
that,
sorry.
what did you
I
do when
engaged
you
you there.
first got the paperwork? What did you do when you first got the paperwork about Mid-State Loop? What was your first thing that you done?
When I got the email,
Right.
I already had scheduled with my staff to do this.
In September, because you said
Oh, in September?
it brought to your attention then.
Well, we received the complaint, and we were in the area, sweeping the area, because it was still areas that we needed to cover. And when we saw the violation, like I said, he had 2 violations. This particular individual has 2 properties, and the violations were the commercial vehicles and trash and debris and the unsafe structure. He signed the citation. He paid the citation. He admitted his guilt. He cleaned up 1 property. The one with the unsafe structure, he specified, and he even came in several times and contacted us saying that he's trying to work with somebody to help him fix it. He spoke with the building official. Building official said it could possibly be fixed. He's going to probably need an engineer.
How long did it take in between then, from the time that you
Initially,
went out there? Was it just 30 days, or it had to be more?
it was about 45 days. It was about
So I
45
understand what he's
days.
saying. The disconnect is because after they 30 days up, and I know we've been short-staffed, but he's saying that, somebody should have been out there and somebody should have done something then.
I agree. Somebody
so
should have.
then-
But when we lost staff in October, it's just been me in the office providing reports and 1 officer out in the field. Now it'll be a little easier. And I can send each officer to different districts. I can send them to different areas. I can send in the larger areas, will all three go out there? Because Thursday's the sweep at Mid-State, and maybe some other areas that we know we have complaints on and problems. But then we're also sweeping Wheeler Estates on Friday. That's a lot of cases that we all have to individually handle. Right now, we're at 223 cases that we have to manage.
And if I may, so we do have an extra code enforcement officer, and so that will help tremendously. So we have a total of 3 staff. I know that one is primarily in the office doing supervisory paperwork, 2 in the field, but we're also doing some cleanup work as well. That'll be brought to you at the next board meeting. Excuse me. That we're trying to clean up so we can move forward. So we've went for the last 5 years, and we went through all of our liens, and all of those are going to be redone and brought back to you at the next board meeting. So at the next board meeting, once those are done and recorded and proper, then we had a meeting this morning, and we were talking about, I know they're overwhelmed, and so there's a lot to do. And so once we get that done at the next meeting, hopefully then we can move forward. And I think follow up, just to be fair, not pointing fingers to anyone, just because the situation has not been done properly. So we have this time period that goes by, and then there's other things to do, and then the follow up. And that's my observation. And so we've got to do a better job of that. And we're going to work towards doing that going forward.
So it'll take a while to catch up, is what you're trying to say?
A little while. I think we're almost there. I think, would you agree with that?
Yes.
I think we're very close.
Then when they catch up and Commissioner Wells calls, they should be able to react to that road, street, or whatever.
I disagree. I don't think Commissioner Wills should have to call.
No, but I mean, if
We want to be
calls,
proactive so we're not reacting.
somebody calls. Did you call them?
No, actually, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Now, I will say, I took Charles, I took Judy Kennington Corf, both to 710 Mid-State Loop. I'm pretty sure it's 710 Mid-State Loop, but I may have it wrong. But anyway, it's the corner of Mid-State Loop.
And nothing ever happened?
No.
Okay.
But I'm sure, if we hire another person, that'll fix it. Throw money at it. That's the situation. That's what government does. In case you're wondering if I'm being a bit facetious or sarcastic or condescending right now, 1,000% I am. I apologize.
Well, we got to get better in that situation for sure. And the question I would have, just out of curiosity, if, say, next month we decided to go with a special magistrate, what situation would that mark? Is that going to speed this process up? Is it going to give the code enforcement more teeth? I mean, is it something that we could? I'm the one that threw that out there in the very beginning, talking to other counties, and they said it was working great. So,
I don't.
is it a possibility to get more teeth for the? I mean, code enforcement is. They can go out there and put fines out there all day long. If they ignore it and turn their, just that's not doing us any good.
I think it'll help from a timing perspective personally. And so time seems to be the issue. We have follow-up issues. We have time issues. We have periods of time that lapse, and that's a big problem. And so and Barbara, if I say anything you disagree with, you can let me know. But right now, I think the judge is doing a great job. Personally, I think he's doing a great job, so nothing I'm saying is taking away from that.
But I'm not either.
But there's dockets, and he's got a lot of other cases that he listens to, and so there's a timing perspective of when we have things ready to go to him that it has to wait, correct? And then that's more time that goes by, and then they have 30 days or 14 days to comply, and then you got to schedule another court case to see if they complied before you can potentially do daily fines. We've been talking about daily fines to put more teeth into our process, so people will be more compliant on the front end rather than the back end. And so all of this is time, and so as time goes on, grass grows, things happen, things get worse and worse.
6 months becomes 8 months, and
so potentially
10
with
years.
a magistrate
Property
process,
was in disarray when I ran for election.
we could speed that process up. And so that is the thought behind that, to potentially look at that. I did speak with the city of Clewiston's acting city manager today about their special magistrate, and it's not anyone local. And he's going to share with me that contact information. Margaret is working on getting some rates for some other folks that we could bring back to you. And our thought is at the next meeting, when we bring back some of our cleanup items, that we're also going to bring that information back on the special magistrates with a cost of what that might look like for you to consider.
So we get that in the following meeting this month, we'll get that information?
It'll be at the next meeting.
Would
Yes,
that
sir.
be a catch-up deal?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So time certain is what you're asking? Would it be a special magistrate for a certain long time?
Yeah, and just
Well-
say we went with that, that would catch up everything. where we
I
can
don't
move.
know if, the answer to that is I don't know. I don't know that you would necessarily just do it to catch up and then stop it. I think that if it was working
Right.
and it reduced the amount of time, that you would probably continue with that process.
The cost associated with the special magistrate is allowed to be passed on to the ultimate violator, or I don't know what the correct word is, but that can be recuperated 100% via the process.
it's not-
Assessed, whether it's paid is another matter, but it can
Yes,
be
sir.
assessed.
So that,
Well, if we could do that at the next meeting, that'd be great. Like I said, originally I brought this up, I believe it was the gentleman's Joe I was speaking to in Charlotte County. When I was sitting at the table with him, when I first brought this up several months back, and he said that it had really, sped up the process and cleaned up the process for them. And I was one spearheading, just waiting to see how the new judge is going to do. And I think he's doing amazing. But then again, if we got issues that's been this long, maybe it's time we move forward. Okay, we tried it, but it's now time to adapt and
well,
move
can't
forward.
you do both of them, the judge and,
I think so. I don't know.
can't you do both of them?
Yes,
other
ma'am.
The only thing I want to mention to you is, when it comes through the court, they pay that fine of $400. $40 of that goes to her. So that $40 that she's spending for me to do the paperwork and everything, for them to come before the judge, could go towards special magistrate.
And then you still have to do the paperwork?
No,
You wouldn't.
They handle it separate, they do their own.
no, they do wrong.
Well, that'd make you mad.
Not hardly. I got plenty of cases.
Plenty of paperwork.
Oh, so we'll have that next meeting, and
So-
that'll be perfect.
And look, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, and here's where I think we are today. I think if we had a special magistrate today, I don't know that we'd be any further along. I'm not against a special magistrate, but the problem is the saturation of what they're able to handle with the boots they have on the ground.
Yeah.
And so if we implemented a special magistrate, that's still not going to change what they're able to facilitate and do with the current staff that they have.
No, because it's not gonna move them any faster.
They're not neglecting Mr. Bain because of a special magistrate or a judge not being here. They're doing it because of what the hampering of what they're able to accomplish within a day's time and who they have to do it with.
Right.
So I don't think that we can look at this as a single layer magistrate. I'm absolutely not opposed to looking at it and doing it if it's right. But it's not going to do us any good if we don't also look at what's going to help Wanda and team be more effective in Mr. Bain's neighborhood on Mid-State Loop and in Central County and everywhere else, so that we can make it happen at a greater magnitude.
It's
If we can't do that, then it's a waste of time. So I don't think we should look at just one side of it.
No, but the side what I'm talking about is right now when they go out and the people talk to them, oh well, they was here, who cares? If we can get the process to the point when they come out, you know what? Next month you'll care because they'll either have a fine or they'll come out here and they'll bring a tow truck and they'll move the truck for you.
Well, we want that to happen regardless. We want that to happen whether we got a special magistrate or Judge Jay Hill
So we
or
can go
who
to
we have.
two meetings a month rather than one.
Right.
So that's the whole thing with the magistrate. And yeah, they can only do so much. I get it. They can only do so much. But the fact is, if we put the tools in their toolbox and say, this is how you're going to do it and you're going to do it now, it's a lot better than to say, well, I'll come back in 30 days, and if you did, okay, and if you didn't, well, I'll come back in 30 days. And
Even with that, they still
well,
have
yeah,
a
but it's been
process.
6 months, so something's going on.
10 years.
And the 2 years I know of on Evans and Case Road, I mean, the first meeting there was about went to battle over. So somewhere along the line, we got to find a way to help you, to empower you. If we're asking you to do it, we're not giving you the tools and empowering you to do it. It's not fair to you. So we got to figure out a way to, to get these situations resolved.
And I ain't sure we shouldn't look at semi-traffic in some of these neighborhoods. I don't believe that mid-state loop roads and roadways were designed for
Well, they
a
were not.
semi to be parked on And that's what's destroying culverts and roads.
It absolutely
Not the commercial truck. That's the mechanic's truck from Wedgeworth or anywhere else.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to add that I don't think Shane can be faulted for any of this, but that is something that as we see, no, let me rephrase that. I know Shane can't be faulted for any of this, but as we start to see more of these types of developments come on, I remember right out of the gate getting elected, and I wanted to see the ditches and flag hole get cleaned. We couldn't do that because we didn't have enough money to do it in the flag hole drainage district budget. But yet Commissioner Harris brings a development that has been in existence for like 27 years, and they give us all the easements and right-of-ways to deal with that and clean it and mow it, and Shane, we're going to take care of it in maintenance. And to say I lost my mind is a bit of a, understatement. Because I was thinking, why are we doing that? But yet we don't take into consideration any type of an MSBU or anything like that. It was a 4-1 vote. I will never forget it. Bam, it was there. And I was like, okay, first lesson. It's actually like my 17th lesson. I digress. The point I'm making is that we have to look at any of these developments that are being created. If it's Sky Valley and that's under the county's jurisdiction, and that would probably be the only one, Shane, that you've actually had to do in recent years, correct? Yes, sir. But that has nothing to do with roadway. That's just drainage, and it's just lighting, I think, and those are two separate ones. And swells? No, roads. Okay. So I stand corrected, and that's good. But I'm saying that we can't allow somebody to just scrape off something, put a 1/4 inch asphalt down, give it back to us from an infrastructure perspective, and then allow that community that is going to utilize said neighborhood to come in and park their sod truck whenever the economy is booming like it is right now, and completely destroy the infrastructure associated with said neighborhood. And that happens a lot, Always being mindful of the fact that we're an agricultural based society. So, we're going to have heavy foot traffic, And so, you're going to have people that are driving dump trucks that live in these neighborhoods. You're going to have people that drive sod trucks that live in these neighborhoods. You're going to have people that drive large, whatever, fill in the blank. And so, we got to be mindful of that. How do you have that happy medium? I don't know.
Sounds to me like a business. Somebody needs to have I'm not being funny, an industrial parking, spot.
That's what
They have those.
They have one actually right now in Hooker's Point that's on the corner. It's not cited for that or anything, but I'm starting to see that traffic be utilized a little bit more. And then there's another area just down from my office that I'm seeing people park overnight.
Anyway, if those trucks are not in the driveway, it's the sheriff's department. We had them in Northville, not parking in the driveway. And I called the sheriff. We went out there. He knocked on the door and said, "Move the truck. If the truck's here tomorrow or ever again, well, I'll give you a ticket." They moved the trucks because they didn't have room to put them in the driveway. They were so long.
Yes, sir.
So we don't know where they went.
But you're telling me there's options. So the Mid-State Loop's right around the corner from where you're talking about, right? Is it not?
For an option for someone to park a vehicle?
Yeah.
And they can park it, but that's what he's saying. They cannot hang out onto the roadway, because we have them in Holland, but if they're parked in their driveway and it's one vehicle, but they have cited some that's parked in the right of way, and they get tickets.
That's the sheriff's department.
Right.
Yeah, but now I've got way less empathy now that I know that they're doing it. There's places they can go park. That's
Commissioner Swindle, no one's here tonight to speak to this issue. If there's one dump truck,
Right.
Yeah.
or one sod truck,
right.
that's leaving in the morning and going to work.
Yeah.
You're talking about, I guarantee you there's at least 2 vehicles in this one specific corner that I'm thinking of that have not moved in 2 years.
Oh.
Let alone,
They're not leaving every day and going to
No.
work. Yeah.
they're the spare parts thing. And then go look at the number of tires that are in the back of the vehicle. Why do I have to be the code enforcement commissioner?
Yeah.
And the public, I want the public to understand that we're not saying you cannot park your vehicle.
Nobody's saying.
I want to specify that
Yes,
so they
ma'am.
will understand that we're not saying that. We're talking about a specific vehicle that hangs out the road or causing in the right of way that's in harm's way. So it's important that they understand that.
I'm talking about blight infiltrating a neighborhood, which is the prime example of what I've witnessed in Mid-State Loop. And you can go right down the list and look at it. When I was a little boy, original subdivision was as top of the line as there is in this county. And now you're starting to see some of those trailers become dilapidated. You're starting to see some of the things start to fall down by the wayside and not be maintenance. Where's the fine line of what's a code violation versus someone, that likes to live in a little bit of more of a disarray status and what, other people are accepting to? But when it starts to affect the neighbors, and I think then when the neighbors call in and then nothing occurs, people throw their hands up, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to boil down to a commercial business being operated in a residential home. That's basically what it's coming down to. And that is the big difference. Rather than having a vehicle parked there, then you're running an actual commercial business. A lot of ours on the other side of the county are actual commercial businesses taking place. So it's not just they're parking it there. It's actual commercial business being ran out of the property. And that's a lot of these probably going to be the same thing.
That's what Mr. Bang is saying.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's not saying, I don't want you to park your truck there. He's saying, I don't want you to run a commercial business next door to my house. And I get that. I don't want a commercial business next door to my house. So, and then that's exactly the way I'm understanding that. So we just got to find a way, as you would say, we got to find a way to skin this cat. And I know that ain't popular. And there was no cats harmed in that. As a public announcement, just to make sure. But
Should have said skin this monkey.
no, I wasn't going there.
Oh, okay.
Don't get that coming up. So we just got to find a way to move forward with that. Public of the hearing, anyone else in the public like to speak tonight? No. Okay, we have any other reports? No. Business by district, Mr. Swindle?
I want to say thank you, Mr. Bain, for coming and bringing that. And as you see, it's a nerve that with everybody, and that we are working on it, not at the rate we all would like to see it fixed, but we think we're making some good headway, and appreciate you coming. Please provide feedback, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. I want to hear it, okay? You can call me, you have my number, or come back here, whatever suits you. Sugar Festival, don't forget, it's this weekend for everybody. Please come over, enjoy. A lot of festivities. I think there's a sign out on the window here that's got the names of the bands that's going to be singing and everyone, and times, and Rotary lunch at noon, which I think they're out of tickets, but then the country breakfast at the Episcopal Church.
Hey, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Honoree breakfast for Miss
Oh,
Martin.
yeah, that's right.
At Roland Martin's Marina.
Roland Martin's Marina, that's right. Yep. So a lot of things going on. Is there an update on the health department? How are we coming with that? Is that close?
It's close. You can probably speak to that better than I can, Shane. We increased the time a couple meetings ago on the change order.
Well, we got, I don't know exactly how much time we have left, but they're getting close to being finished. However, Alan Bowen, Facilities Maintenance, has requested a couple change orders that I just got them yesterday that I got to review. Having problems with the HVAC units. Alan wants to change them out. Alan wants to paint the building, and something to do with the fire alarms. So I've got 3 of those to review.
How many of those air handlers, Shane? Do you have any idea?
Haven't even opened it up. Alan met with me today at about 9 o'clock. Briefly wanted to know if I got it. I did. I got to review it. That shouldn't stop him from going into the building. It's just something we got to do. And then the windows, the board approved the windows, but Dr. Pepe doesn't want to move forward with the windows until he knows for sure if he's getting the grant, but that won't affect people moving back into the building.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chair.
That's it, yes.
Ms. Davis, Shane, hold on. So are we replacing the air conditioners in the health department in LaBelle?
Those aren't air conditioners, Commissioner Turner. What it is a chiller system.
Okay.
So it's actually one chiller system, chiller out back, like a condensing unit. And the rest of them are just air handlers. And I believe there is 9 or 11 in the building total air handlers. That's the reason I was asking how many we was looking at. So
What I'm asking is this. What happens when a couple of the systems fail from a redundancy standpoint for that building to still be occupied? That's what I'm trying to move at. You brought up a great point that when we go back into the jail and do some facility upgrades, we need to be thinking about redundancy. And I'm just wondering, while we're at the table here, I think that's something that you ought to meet with the contractor on and talk with them and try to. Is that possible?
Oh yeah, yeah. The system still runs if one air handler's down, the system still runs.
Okay.
And I believe just before I ran for office, we had replaced 4.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure 4, maybe 5 that we had already replaced. So, and there was several in there that still needed it, but that's I was just wondering how many now.
10-4.
I'm pretty sure there's 9 or 11 units in there, air handlers. So that's what I was asking.
So it's moving forward.
Yeah.
Oh. That's been
It's
since the
close.
hurricane.
Yes.
It's been since Hurricane Irma.
Almost
2 years. Yeah.
We did like an original 9-month contract with
When I
it.
say there's the time was some of the things that the health department was requesting, the additional
Right,
time.
additional upgrades
Yeah,
on
it's
stuff that was
they
outside
were-
of the scope.
Yes,
Yeah.
that they are paying for, so
Okay.
it would have, yes.
Okay. The final question I have is a month and a half ago we heard about some road safety issues Did we ever make any headway? I know there was supposed to be a meeting with Mr. McCarthy from the school system.
Schools? Case and Evans Road.
Yeah. Case and Evans, but I mean, it dealt with a whole bunch. Did you get, because you were absent, but then you got brought up?
Jennifer and myself met with Kevin McCarthy from the school board. He gave some maps of bus stops on Case and Evans. Stephen actually finished the maps this afternoon showing there wasn't a large clustering of home sites, but you wanted to see it, so I'm going to get it to you. But it did get finished today. There's some are at the same stop repeatedly. I think there's only 2 spots where you could pipe to cluster some kids in one area, but it looks more like a shotgun blaster, like scattered all the way down the road.
But I think he said he's stopping every one now. I stand to be corrected, but yeah.
So I think they're going to do all of them.
Are they?
What he said.
He said it wasn't that many, so they was going to stop at each.
Yeah.
But there was other things on that road, though. I mean, other than schools, like the one young lady whose father got hit because there was no shoulder there.
That can't. There's no shoulder. That right of way is narrow, and it just goes asphalt, ditch, and then property line.
Okay.
No shoulder, no nothing. The only way you could make a shoulder is pipe them.
Several miles long, and it's
good grief.
It's just it's a narrow road.
You don't
right
walk on that road.
Yeah. Are there signs to that effect, or is there a sign that says danger, don't walk? I mean, is there anything? Should we be?
Don't do it.
Well, I realize that, but
We were talking about lighting as well.
yeah.
I mean, you would have to create an MSBU and the people would have to pay. But, you know, we were talking about other safety features that we could potentially implement, you know, other than to create more of a safe environment.
Right. I mean, some signs. I mean, signs cost, I'm not going to say nothing, but pretty close to nothing compared to what we could do, right? Say dangerous road, be careful, anything.
But we have speed signs up there, and they pay no attention.
I mean,
to
the speed limit's
signs.
35, and they're posted all over the place, coming and going, and in the middle, they don't obey them.
65.
They have bumps on the road?
No, there's no speed humps, but it's 35 miles an hour in the middle. It says when you're leaving, has it in midways of the road both directions, and
May as well not be there.
Yeah,
And they
people
have
don't read the signs. They drive how they feel like they want to drive because there's not a lot of traffic on the road, so they got the whole 2 lanes of travel.
Straight like a draw.
Unbelievable. Okay, and lastly, I would just like to make the comment that I would absolutely vote for Commissioner Turner for a code enforcement commissioner. I don't want to be code enforcement commissioner.
When you retire, we're going to get you a part-time. Not a little.
No, I'm never retiring. I'm going to die working.
Ms. Bird?
The little bit he got, he won't have.
You don't have no hair.
I know, right? I just wanted to say to the code enforcement, I know everybody don't do what I do, but I do a sweep for them, and I'll send pictures or I'll call because I do know they're shorthanded, but we do appreciate what you do, you know, so nobody feels like we're just hammering on you because it is a lot. Because they'll do a sweep in my community, and I come back 2 or 3 weeks, and that same house that they swept is all over again. So
They go right back.
Yeah, just want to let you know that we appreciate you, appreciate what you do. Thank you.
See, Jennifer, you told me one time, how far are we away from the jail?
So we're working on the scope. Alan has created I would say a draft scope. It hasn't been finalized to be able to put an RFP out. And so Tracy and they're working on the final document to get it out.
Did they quit working on the courthouse? There's nobody there.
No, they're working there. They've been working at they're working on the old courthouse.
Every day I went by, there's nobody nowhere.
Well, they're on the inside. They're
Well,
in the
you didn't
courtyard.
tell me that.
Well, you didn't ask.
There's a guy in a pickup truck that sits there all day with the motor running.
They're working.
They are working. Well, thank you, clerk.
Just call me. Just call me.
And anyway, Mr. Turner, a guy called me the other day and said he wanted to donate to the Harris Foundation. And he read it in the paper. You did a good job. So he gave us a check for $3,000. And I give it to Jennifer.
Strong. So we're going to have chimes?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So they read it in Clusabel.
I hope they're loud and drive you nuts.
Well, that's what I just asked him to bring it back to my attention because
She doesn't
I
have a
got
say in this.
I might not have a say, but I'm just going to tell you what the people saying. They say 12 o'clock is fine, but they really don't want to hear it all day. I'm just telling you. I'm just a messenger.
What about it, clerk?
I talked to the judges about that going off while court's in session, and they said like 8 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock, and 5 o'clock is fine. They really didn't want to hear it at 10 o'clock while court was in session or while they're trying to.
Well, we can skip the morning session.
So,
I think that would be awesome to have a noon and 5, right?
That is good.
And then maybe, I mean, I don't know, y'all.
I think we can change it too, right? So we can make weekends different if you wanted.
My feeders go off for 10 seconds.
12,
It scares the
and
death
5.
out of me.
Can't do it like Dr. Pepper.
I don't know what that means.
10 and 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got Mr. Harris?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Turner don't have anything.
Mr. Chair, I just want to let everybody know again, just to echo what Mr. Swindle said about Miss Mary Ann Martin being honored tomorrow for the Sugar Festival honoree breakfast. Miss Martin does so much for this community, always has, and will continue to do so. Just a great woman and a great advocate for our area. We lost a matriarch of our community, as you all know, Miss Florida Thomas, the Florida Thomas Library. I take great honor in knowing that I was able to vote to rename that library after her. She was one of those teachers that put the absolute fear of God in me between her and Miss Fletcher. But I am an avid reader, and I have such a value for books. And I will tell you that when I was in undergrad, they used to always, my professors would tell me to underline stuff or highlight it. To this day, I have such trouble writing in a book or highlighting anything in a book. I can highlight on my plans and specs, but I'm scared to death to write in a book out of the fear of Miss Fletcher or Miss Thomas beating the fire out of me for not respecting a book. So yeah, I'm glad that they did that. So I love those ladies to death. And if I get the opportunity to speak, I'm going to tell them that I'm still mad at both of them for not allowing me to go on the safety patrol trip. They said I didn't get voted on by my peers. I don't believe that. They couldn't deal with me, Amir, and Brad together. I know that's what it was, and so I was the low man on the totem pole. But either way, just a stalwart of a person, and she will be dearly missed. But what an example. The Pioneer community, a handful of people in the Pioneer community have asked me to attend a meeting on March 23rd. I don't know what protocol is for getting the community center. I believe in Pioneer you ask Mr. and Mrs. Bosley for permission. I think that's what it is, isn't it? I think it's the official stance is you have to get Mr. and Mrs. Bosley's permission, which is awesome to me. But March 23rd, I'm hearing that the meeting will be at 4 o'clock. I talked with Miss Naomi Sanchez today. She's asked me to be there from 4 to 5. I'm going to be able to be there from 4 to probably 4:30, 4:45, make myself available. I know that one thing that they're wanting to talk about is that community being receptive to ATVs and side-by-sides a little bit more than what it is to currently. I will tell you that was a bone of contention. The county actually applied to an off-highway vehicle fund through the state of Florida, was awarded a grant that was going to be utilized at the Henry County dump, the old dump when it was shut down, and make it a formal off-highway vehicle park. And Ms. Papinal, I'm not exaggerating when I say the community lit up in a negative aspect to wanting that to happen. And so we actually had to forfeit that grant. Ms. Davis, I'm asking Ms. Papinal to give me that background information so that I can go there and share that with the constituency base. I'm not anti to what the request will be made. I'm there to listen and understand and then bring stuff back to us as a board for possible policy discussion. Ms. Bird, how is it going in Harlem with you all having your pilot program of golf carts being free to run around? It's going well.
I had any problem, and there's less golf carts now.
Yeah.
Since that happened, but we haven't had any problems.
Yes, ma'am.
Since then, our concern is doing the sugar festival,
Yep.
Brown Sugar Festival, because of the children.
Yes, ma'am.
So we did have a meeting about a couple of weeks ago, talked about the golf carts. They're not going to allow them into the festival, but they'll still be on the outside of the festival and the roads that's closed off. So far, we have not had a problem.
Okay.
We haven't had a problem.
Well, I'm looking forward to that meeting on the 23rd, and I'm also asking the Pioneer community as we speak to give us a date for when we could go out there and possibly have a BOCC meeting. Shane, I just wanted to talk to you after the meeting about any updates or any progress that's happened at Flaghole with roadside swells and stuff like that. I'd love to get an update from you. And then Ms. Davis, another request of Shane is the status of the maps for road repairs in years since we've done what? and when we're going to potentially via the 5-year plan or the Shane Parker plan.
The map and the 5-year plan, paving plan?
Well, just looking at not necessarily the 5-year plan, but Flaghole Road was done in 2016, right?
Right.
So you show that on the said map. When was a road in your district repaved that you know of?
Hopefully in a couple of weeks.
And so that'll be on there for
To start construction.
2019.
Drain it. Ain't gonna happen that fast.
Every road in Commissioner Harris's district has been done in the last 2 years. And we know that Commissioner Harris's roads trump all commissioners' roads. So it's like, you would put Flaghole will be back up like 2030. Commissioner Road, after all of Commissioner Harris's roads have been redone, then you come back to the rest of the commissioners' roads.
That's the way
So
it
how do we
works.
show? That's the way it works. The man has all the juice. I love it. But does that map? Has it been started? Where
Yes,
you
the
at?
map. I got a draft for you to view to see if it's what you like.
Us,
It's not
us to see if we like.
you, because
Okay.
you're the one who requested it,
Okay.
to see if it looks right.
I know Commissioner Wills said he liked the idea. I
And-
heard him say it.
But you already have the 5-year plan.
I have a 12-year plan. We're like
Well,
2 years into it.
We don't want a 12-year plan.
That was the one that was financially affordable since you wouldn't give me any money. But the maps that I have shows all the ones that we have, the grants that we've done since '06. They're going through now, filling out what we did when we did miscellaneous research in '06, some in '09. We did a bunch of roads. In Commissioner Harris District, we did North and South Willis Ranch Road. We got to add those, some of the ones with construction projects like Everglades Boulevard. So we're fine-tuning those up, and then we're going back, finding the older ones we did prior to 2000 on 835. There are several segments and some on 833.
Awesome. Do you think it'll end up being 4 maps, 10 maps? How many maps do you think it'll be for the county?
It's probably going to be about 10 because there's several. They got an overall, and then there's like subsections. So
Yes,
you
sir.
see Felda, you see Harlem, stuff like that. It'll have Sky Valley on it, and it'll have, even though that's an MSBU, we're responsible for maintenance, so we'll show that on there.
Yes, sir.
And there's some that we have to add based on when the construction date took acceptance, like Oak Haven. It was before my time, but it's a county road, but we need to go back when that subdivision was accepted by the county engineer and add that road date on there. So there's little things like that Stephen can't do that we have to do research on.
And and so like Highway 80 in all of its glory, completed by 2020, that'll be on there. You'll be able to see that, and then
Can add it. We were just doing county roads, but I can add
okay.
that.
Well, I was just looking at it from infrastructure from a total package.
Okay, we can add
But I'm excited about looking at that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just thinking from a document perspective, so that this body knows we need to start lobbying. Because Shane, you were with us when District 1. They won't acknowledge this, but they took a huge chunk of change as it related to Highway 80 being repaved. And that got absorbed back into the District 1. It was removed from the 5-year plan. They'll tell me I'm crazy and that never happens, but I know. And it went to signals and intersection improvements for the rest of District 1, and it went into specifically Lee County and Fort Myers. I remember it vividly.
I'm not going to comment
No,
on that.
you can't comment because you have a great relationship with DOT, and that's how I make my livelihood. So I probably shouldn't be commenting this aggressively anyway, but it's irrelevant because I just think that as we have this document, then it gives us a roadmap, no pun intended, to follow of how we want to move on moving the legislative priorities up, and we can show it. It's easy. It's a picture speaks 1,000 words. 2035, that's when the 80-27 intersection was supposed to be studied. 2035, and you allowing a lot of different conversations to occur in the relationships you had, along with this body, saying we're not going to allow one person a month to continue to die. We need to move this up the food chain, but we had documentation that supported all that, and I think that this is just another easy way of doing that. So, thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I apologize for not bringing up Ms. Thomas, but they awarded her at they honored her at the Black History Program.
Awesome.
And she was just as sharp as always. And one of the things she said, when her time comes, don't nobody get up and speak over if you don't give her flowers. She don't want them. So, but she was just that type of a woman. So, thank you for bringing it to our attention.
I got one that's not going to be real popular. And I'm not code enforcement, not poor Mr. Parker, not Tommy. It's courthouse parking. I was there the other day, and this has happened so many times. There was a little lady that she had a walker, and a lady helping her use the walker, and she had to park in the back 40 to get in the building. Is there any way we can get more space parking for people that come in to do business that are there for 15 or 20 minutes as compared to ones that are there for 8 hours a day? I know it isn't going to be popular. I know some of the employees are going to, I'm not getting a Christmas card, but we got to think about some of these people that they can't get to the building. I mean, it was terrible. I went over and offered to help. Felt bad about it. And she said, no, honey, I'll get there eventually.
So she wasn't handicapped?
Well,
she wasn't handicapped, Mr. Harris, but she was on a walker. And I mean, there's no reason for people to have to park in the back 40 to have to want to come in and get a tag or pay their taxes. They should be able to park up front, walk in the building, do their business, and leave. The 1 hour parking, I hate to tell everyone this, and it means nothing. I was told they can't enforce that because it's not an ordinance. It's more like a suggestion. So you got people parked there all day long. The ones that we do have handicap parking, we've got employees parking in those, and I get it. Maybe they need it. But we got to make some way for these folks to be able to get in and do business. It was terrible. If y'all would have seen it, you'd have known exactly why I'm bringing it up tonight. It was just terrible.
I think part of that, Mitch, is which if you're running a business and you're in business, your employees park somewhere else, and all your top spots is for your customers. I think a lot of the employees there, some of them park too close to the building and take up the prime parking, and then if you're a customer and it's full, you park and walk.
That is part of it, Mr. Harrison. Part of it, is your weapon locked? Good enough. Talked to the sheriff, and I asked the sheriff, I said, just out of curiosity, I said, why do the bailiffs park by the front door? Is there a situation that if someone runs out of the building, they're not going to chase them, they got to run straight to their car? He said, look, they do that as a courtesy to us. He said, I've always had them park at the sheriff's department. And it's not just employees. I guess my question is, how can we get the people closer to the building that, once again, and everyone's guilty of it. We've all pulled up in there and pulled in a 1 hour parking spot. I need to walk. But I've done it myself. But we need to figure out some way to help these people get in and out of these buildings. I mean, am I
One thing that we're doing, and Shane has got some plans that he has drawn up that we're doing for the courthouse security project to be able to go ahead and implement. We're waiting on the handicap parking specifically, and so he's got some plans that he's looking to, and we're looking to increase where the 1 hour parking is specifically. What you're talking about is to make that handicap parking, and we've got to restripe it because we've got to allow the space in between to be compliant, and also allow the space between the building and where they're going to park to allow them to have a proper.
We got to build an access way so the handicapped people don't back into the parking lot and wheel through the drive aisle. We got to pull the space. We got to eliminate some spaces, pull it away from the building, put the walkway between the handicap spaces and the building to go around.
But the one,
and that's all good. But
That's
once
one
again,
thing.
if we're not handicapped, like this lady the other day, she was a handicapped. She didn't have a sticker.
and the 1 hour parking is not going to do a bit of good in the world.
Change someone to 15-minute parking.
Well, it's not enforceable unless it's an ordinance, and that was what I was told. It was not enforceable.
And if you really want to make them mad, designate employee parking way out there.
Well, I'm not trying to upset anyone or hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just trying to make it easier for people like that to get in and do their business.
I talked to Phil Pelletier, and he moved all of his cars over to the sheriff's department. Talked to the school board, they refused to move theirs. Then you have employees that hug the front, and so I go to the sheriff's department where I think they could park. I leave there and I walk all the way back to the courthouse, 1 minute and 40 seconds. If you told some of the employees to do that, they would throw the biggest fit in the world if you made them go that minute and 40 seconds. That's what it costs to get from way back here up to there.
Yes, sir.
But if you own
I know exactly what you're saying.
If you own a retail business,
Yes, sir. You reserve that for your
all
patrons.
the top spots is for your customers.
Yes, sir.
And you park somewhere else or stay home or something, ride a bus.
Well, like I said, I knew this was going to be a tough nut to crack, but we got to figure out some way to make it easier and more accessible for our employees. Ma'am?
But when we have jury trials.
Yeah,
Oh no, you can't even park. I know that.
Wasn't we looking at purchasing a home that was kind of in the corner as well for extra parking?
We
at one
own all
point?
the land there next to
I think that was
county
over by the
attorney.
sheriff's.
We have the lot in front of the county attorney's
We got plenty of
office.
I
land.
thought it was there. I thought somebody.
We did. We got it.
No, you're thinking of the
He's
house
thinking about
that's
Miss Martinez'
in the
home.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This is right next to his office.
What he's talking about is by Tracy's.
No,
by
yeah.
Tracy's
Did
mama.
we not wind up with that?
No.
No, they didn't, they wouldn't want to sell
So,
it.
Mr. Chair, you want to ask the county administrator to bring something back?
That's what I was, yes, sir. Like I said, I knew it wasn't gonna be popular, and I probably lost a few birthday cards, but if I don't have to watch that little lady walk from the back of the parking lot, I can live without a birthday cake.
But the only way you're gonna solve that is employee parking.
So, and that's all I have, so.
Mr. Harris is right. We're public servants. We're customer service. And we're not serving our customers, not parking up front.
Come on up here and talk to us, Mr. Beatty. We can see your smiling face a little better up here. Now you're just gonna sit down and watch him. Why's your gun unstrapped? No, just kidding. Anybody have anything else?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't been able, well, I haven't had time really to get with Mark, but when you ordered the tax deeds on the 400 lots, you know, we've been working on them diligently. In May, we got 3 sales in May. I mean, we're stacking them up now. But we're getting to the point where if y'all wanted to go ahead and get some more lots, we're either selling them or they're paying the taxes.
Well, that's good.
We don't have, I don't think we have one Portland got a lot, do we, Mark?
I'm not aware of any that has cheated to us.
Yeah.
But still, it would be 3 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you're selling them at the auction.
We're selling them, or CHO's coming in, and they're
Paying.
paying the taxes.
CHL's paying taxes?
Yes, they are. They're having to pay the $500
Well, what,
in addition for the cost and everything.
did you
plus
ask them about, the 1,400 lots out there?
When we start taxing stuff and they have a mortgage on it, they come in and purchase the property, pay the back taxes if they are holding a mortgage on it. And, now then I've got some going to sell in May
But they,
belong to them.
they didn't do anything in Banyan Village, did they?
We don't know.
None of the 435 were in Banyan Village. They all were in units 1 through 9.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a good market now. So what do we need to do? You said if,
Come up with a second batch, I guess you're saying.
Is- who does
It takes
that?
a while to get all the processing, and then they have to order their own unencumbered reports, and it takes money to be able to pay the tax collector's checks.
so who does that, Mark?
Staff will work on it, and we'll bring it back to you for authorization for the money. Like 430 lots at $200 per application is $86,000 that you had to approve for the first batch, and so we'll have a similar kind of presentation.
So do you do that?
Well, I'll get working on it.
You do it next month?
Next month, not next meeting, but next month, right?
Oh, okay.
Anything else? Meeting adjourned.